Unite-SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network, link 155. You may be asking, who's your host? My name is Spencer Presley. I'm asking myself, why did I wait so long to say network? I've done this show enough. I shouldn't be asking that question. But we have more important questions. My question is, who am I joined by today? That's Cameron Hawkins. Cameron, did I ruin your last name?
No, you said it perfectly.
Fantastic. Cameron Hawkins, thank you for joining us on this very special TMS episode of SMTN. Who are you, and why do you deserve to be talking about this franchise today?
Okay, so my name is Cameron Hawkins, and I write for DualShockers.com. If you are part of the Kind of Funny community at all, I've co-hosted with Greg Miller once on Kind of Funny Games Daily. And the reason why I'm on this episode is I am the biggest self-proclaimed Tokyo Mirage Sessions fan. Anyone who knows me well enough knows that I have a huge love for that game, and I will ride or die that game, regardless of the. I don't want to say that they're deserved criticisms, but I know that it's a niche title. There are things about it that obviously the premise of it is a little hard for some people to grasp because these characters that you're playing at are teenage Japanese idols, but it's a phenomenal JRPG with one of the most engaging, interesting turn-based battle systems that I've played in recent memory. And if you're a Fire Emblem fan like me, that story really hits home near the end of the game.
So, Cameron, besides really loving Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and not one of those Switch bandwagoner kids, I think there's at least 5 people who now think it's cool because of the Switch. What is your history with Shin Megami Tensei or Persona in general? Which one kind of came first for you?
So actually, my first Atlas game was Catherine. And
we weirdly throw that in the in-between one of it's not really fair to just call it an Atlas game just because of the development team, and it has so many elements, so many of the weird things for it. But that's really interesting. Was it I have to ask,
the original
PS3 or 360?
Xbox 360.
I'm sorry you got the worst cover, but please continue on.
What do you mean by that?
I'm only stroking the dumb cover war because remember it was Catherine with a K on 360, Catherine with a C on PS3.
Really?
Yeah, do you not remember? Yeah, it was separated through systems.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the cover art. Oh,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I get you. I understand. Whatever.
I'll say this though. You get really cool points, you or anyone listening to this episode, if you remember the Walmart exclusive version of that cover.
I couldn't tell you.
That's okay. If you remember that 9 years after its release, you would have been in bigger nerd jail than me. So Walmart, The only way they would stock copies of Catherine, because remember at the time, it's big thing of are we even going to get this in the West because it was so overly sexualized, especially compared to games at the time. Walmart thought having Vincent on Catherine's butt or Catherine's cleavage was too sexual, so the Walmart cover is just super zoomed in on their face, and you just see the girl's face with the logo in the bottom corner or so. It's definitely worth a Google search because it looks really bad and really awkward.
I'm doing that right now.
It literally looks like my mom had to censor it with zero skills in Windows Paint.
Oh, so it's just more. Okay, so it's just more up close. Mm-hmm. I don't actually think it's that bad though. I think it's still a good cover, or like good cover art. I
It's a
don't know.
good cover art if you're a fan of the game and just enjoy kind of weird things, but if you're Joe Blow at Walmart, whether Catherine be a game you like or not, that cover tells you nothing. That says anime face to the game.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but no. So I played Catherine on 360, which is my favorite puzzle game. That game is amazing. Incredibly well, not incredibly hard, but still very hard. And I got Catherine Full Body when that came out last year. Was disappointed in that one, to be honest. It I didn't like the true route for Rin's story because that's what I played on my one playthrough that I've done. But I like the quality of life things that they changed in that game, and I liked the uh, I liked how they made all the different difficulties, making it more accessible. But it just, with that in mind, even though it's a great thing for more gamers just to be able to play it, it just doesn't have that same feeling of success when you finish a puzzle comparatively to the original because of how hard it was. And for me, I like playing games on hard difficulties. Like I played through all the Mass Effect games on Insanity. I played Kingdom Hearts 2 Critical Level 1. Like I love being challenged in that sense. And when I played through Catherine on the hard difficulty, it was still just really easy because of the mechanical changes that they made. But I think the original Catherine is still like fantastic. And outside of that, with Atlas games, I've played most of Persona. Sorry, P P4 Golden. Um, and I have played all of Persona 5, and that game is phenomenal. And I'm very much looking forward to Persona 5 Royal. I already pre-ordered the Phantom Thieves edition, and I really want to go back and like go on eBay and find the original collector's edition for the original because I love that game that much. Um, I want to get back to the thing is like I didn't finish P4 Golden because I had a Vita, and I think the Vita is a great handheld for JRPG gamers.
I don't like the way you're already talking about this. I feel like you're about to break up with me and I just met you.
Well, no, it's just it's a great system if you love JRPGs and you want to catch up on JRPGs. And I want to get a Vita again, but at that point, I need I needed the money to get my Xbox One X when it launched, so I had to make a sacrifice. It sucks, but that's what I had to make a choice, and I don't regret it in any way. But I need to go back and play through also Persona 3 and P4 Golden as well. Those are two games that I definitely plan on going back to. Recently, I've been wanting to work on my JRPG backlog of games because those are just so long, and now is kind of like a great time to do that. Like I said before the podcast, I'm playing through Final Fantasy VII, not for the first time, but as a replay leading up to the remake. But I haven't played Crisis Core because I never had a PSP. So, but my buddy gave me an extra PSP he had, and then I'm just gonna buy Crisis Core once I finish 7 and play through Crisis Core for the first time. Unfortunately, I know the main bit at the end of the game, but I've heard it's still like absolutely fantastic. And
Is that your only spoiler for Crisis Core? How it ends?
Yes.
Okay, so you're in good luck. That game is designed so that you know that, and it actually plays with a lot of those expectations in really, really interesting ways. And me, as a really big Final Fantasy fan, when I played through the ending of Crisis Core, like if you've played through 7, you know what happens to Zack. The end should not be a surprise. Like that game made me bawl. Like the ending of that game, still getting to that point in that journey is like so heavy hitting, and like the way like they have a specific theme song they made just for the ending of that game. It is like not even fair how much that game.
Yeah, and isn't that the reason why the game hasn't can't like hasn't gotten a port or anything because of licensing issues.
Yeah, it was actually caught in licensing purgatory for the longest time. That's why Kingdom Hearts was never ever at least for 1 and 2, they were never available digitally anywhere until 1.5, 2.5 on PS4, because then they had finally gotten the digital rights while working with Utada again for KH3. Because by the time they were working with her in the theme song she did in KH3, they had re-signed her original songs and got the digital rights. That's why PS4 and now later Xbox will have digital versions, whereas everything else, even the PS3 versions, were only disc only.
Man, I mean that 100%. Like I knew about all of that, but uh yeah, I wish Crisis Core wasn't trapped on the PSP. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, but like I knew that you knew from Final Fantasy VII, but it's just like I think I saw bits of like the scene, like the cinematic cutscene and stuff like that, and I was like, man, I wish I did not see this. So. So that's what I'm doing right now, and eventually I'm going to get back to those those titles. Haven't really played much SMT at all, but again, also games that I want to go back to and play. They're just kind of stuck on older systems that I need
like especially like for SMTs, like unless you have a lot of old legacy hardware, and like the newest thing they've really been on is 3DS, which even now is really long in the tooth. If you had like to play one of the older games, which one do you think has really caught your attention the most?
Probably Nocturne, just
okay.
because I've heard that game is punishingly hard, and that's 100% my type of thing. Like again, like I said earlier, I really like to be challenged and punished. Like it's one of those things like it's kind of like that thing like why do people watch, like people who love horror movies love being scared? It's like that doesn't make sense to me. But then it's like, in this sense, I love playing hard games where I get like destroyed all the time because the satisfaction of when you finally win. So yeah, I really need to get a PS3 so I can for a lot of
I was just gonna say yeah, because almost actually not even almost all of the Atlas SMT games and Persona games look really really good upscaled on the PS3 PS2 emulator, and I think they're all like $10 or so.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was a 360 kid, and I had PS3 for a short amount of time, and that was really to get through a bunch of the PS exclusive titles, like the Uncharted series, the God of War series, Infamous, things like that. But I really need to go back to PS3 because I really want to play through the Metal Gear Solid series because I've never played through those, and Shin Megami Tensei, and I know that Persona 3 is on PS3, but I heard that the portable version is better. I don't know.
100%. Like by the time you kind of finish up Crisis Core, unless there's something you see about Persona 3 Fez, like honest to God, even though it cuts out a lot of the fluff in it, P3P, even though it is a truncated down version of the PS2 game, is easily the superior version.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, and so I need to get a Vita again or something. Like I want to get a Vita again because there's a lot of games on the Vita outside of Atlas titles that I want to play. But that's that's about my Atlas history. It's not long, but throughout the years, like they have quickly become one of my favorite developers for sure.
Cool, really really awesome. In terms of their 2020 stuff, I know you mentioned you were excited about Royal. What's your hype meter for Scramble like?
Oh, I'm excited for Scramble. It's cool that I'm sad that it's not the same type of gameplay because I'm just a sucker for turn-based combat. But it looks like it's really cool that we get to see these characters again because Persona 5 feels like a trek at some points. But once the game ends, you're just like, don't go. I love you guys. And knowing that Scramble is just a straight up sequel to Persona 5 is really, really cool. And it's interesting though, just because now with Royal coming and there being a new Phantom Thief, like, is there going to be like a Royal version of Persona 5 Scramble down the line? You know, where
I can tell you right now, 100% no, and hello season pass.
but like it would be weird. It's gonna be weird having the story of Scramble not include Katsumi is her name, right?
Kasumi, yeah.
Kasumi. Um, and then Royal comes out that's like the definitive version, but then there wouldn't be a definitive version for Scramble that includes Kasumi.
I think one of the big things with it, especially as someone who's played a lot of the spin-offs and stuff for it, um, now, I've not spoiled myself, and I know you haven't either, on Kasumi's role in Royal, but
Ah,
definitely characters that they've added in the past, like Marie and other things like that, they've had ways to kind of like, oh, she's off doing her own thing, or whatever, or just straight up not really even mention them. Because even in their
yeah.
marketing, Atlas has been very strict about, this is the sequel to Persona 5, not Persona 5 Royal. So not saying that Kasumi doesn't exist, but it's like we're taking the cast from 5. And if it does make anyone feel better, because I know DLC, especially with a lot of Atlas games, don't always have the best connotation. Koei Tecmo, the guys who are working on the game, I know they get a lot of crap for some of their like Dead or Alive like season passes and fighting games. If you look though at all of these spin-off games that have ever had season passes, like Fire Emblem Warriors, especially with Hyrule Warriors, like both of those season passes, when they get into like the nostalgic roots of a franchise, they make some of the most like best bang for your buck in a season pass I've ever played. I think with both of Hyrule Warriors season passes, for example, I added another like 150 hours for like $30.
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Because yeah, it's just like I don't know if Kasumi is going to have like a role like in as the where you actually get to control her and she's a part of the group and like kind of like not the same narrative role, but like in a sense of like Akechi where she's only in the game for a portion and she's not really considered a part of the actual group, if that makes sense.
I know her involvement's really kind of weird because she sort of toes the line like Goro in Persona 5 of the sense of when you meet her she's very anti Phantom Thieves,
Yeah.
but she is added to your party a lot earlier. So yeah, that might kind of loop into why. But yeah, it'll be really interesting, and thankfully the game comes out, I mean, Jesus. Yeah, less than a month
2 months.
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, because it comes out 2020.
March 31st.
No, no, no. Sorry, I'm talking about Scramble.
Oh,
Yeah,
Scramble.
Scramble's out
Well,
in less than a month, and so
in Japan, right?
we're gonna know DLC details really really quickly.
But that's in Japan, and we get it in America like later this year, right?
No official announcement because they probably want to get Royal out or at least closer
Yeah.
to being out before that. But I think the safe bet is September, which sucks because it makes sense for them, but they're probably gonna get drowned out by a bunch of way 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 bigger games. But Atlas is not known for picking the best release date, so we can't really complain that much.
Yeah, but man, do they like, speaking of Atlas, they give you the best bang for your buck when it comes to collector's editions. Like, holy shit. Every time they release a collector's edition, I'm just like, how is it this cheap? Like, how do they do this? And I'm like, I know they're owned by Sega now, but I'm just like, how? Like the Catherine one was with the soundtrack, art book, the plushie, like all that stuff for $20 more. I was like, this is a steal. I was so like, I was so blown away. And then like now the Phantom Thieves edition with the Joker mask. I don't know like how big it is, but I assume it's going to be like. I feel like if you make something like that, it's going to be somewhat close to a human-sized mask. You know what I mean? Like a normal adult, average sized adult, and then you get the art book and like sound, like music and things like that for $30 more. I was just like, this is incredible. Like every time I'm just so like so shocked about how like cost effective it is, and like because outside of Atlas, like I'm a huge Square Enix fan, and um like the Kingdom Hearts like collector's edition was like $230 or something like that. and it was just the deluxe edition with 3 figures. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, like, those figures are expensive, but like it still just kind of like ripped my wallet. While what Atlas brings is just like still really cool, but great collector pieces, and then it's still cheap as well, which is I don't know. I always like applaud them for how they make like cost-effective collector's editions for people that may not like have the money to buy like a $200 collector's edition or something like that. So yeah.
Cameron, I really appreciate you like kind of bringing me back down to earth. I've been in the game as an Atlas fan and as a collector for many, many years, and it's so funny because when the like Phantom Thieves edition of P5R got announced, we were doing our 150th episode special, and we all pretty much went on a case of, okay, the steelbook looks absolutely gorgeous. Spencer is very excited for it. Boy, we sure miss older Atlas pack-ins and collector's editions, and just went on complaining about how the mask is probably going to be blah 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 blah. It's very interesting though, getting your perspective, especially as like a later day fan who like kind of joined, because I'm guessing, what was your first like Atlas collector's edition? Because I'm guessing you didn't get the original Love Is Over Catherine special edition, right?
No, I didn't. I did not get that one, unfortunately. The first one I got was the Catherine full body one, which, again, like I thought was such a good deal, and that steelbook is like absolutely gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
I'm gonna have to send you pictures because I don't know if you know this, along with being way too big of a Vita stan, I am a pretty big video game steelbook collector myself.
Yeah, I've been started like I collect a good amount of those as well. Nothing super like ridiculous.
Well,
But
I was actually going to say, because the interesting thing about that is the Catherine full body one we got in America is actually not a steelbook, even though is very often kind of thrown in as, because steelbook propers you can always tell by the spine, and if you look on the inside, it'll actually say the company's name, Steelbook.
it's not your traditional steelbook, but I still think it's gorgeous. Like I love the design. I love the pink, like the shade of pink.
The pink super stands out, and actually it is one of those odd cases of the art is really, really nice. My biggest gripe with it, and especially because you bought the collector's edition, so you know this, only the standard edition copies had a plastic slipcover, so anytime you put that game on your shelf, it is just a pink spine with no text.
Yeah, that doesn't really bother me though, to be honest, because like the Spider-Man one is just a red steelbook case with the white spider on it and no spine, and I love it. I'm like, cool. That's fine with me.
I'll be very curious to see what you think though, because Japan gets a lot of very, very interesting retailer exclusive steelbooks, and almost every Persona game since Persona 5 has had an exclusive one that stayed in Japan. The one for Catherine I super, super, super love, and actually is a really unique case because it is PS4 size, but on the right is a PS4 disc, and on the left are 2 slots for Vita game cartridges. So you can actually hold both versions of the game, which I had no idea until I got.
There are 2 versions of Catherine Full Body.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. You live in America. Yes.
On Vita?
Yes. Atlas. Oh no, not 2 versions. It's just it was easier for them to make a mold that holds 2 games, because hypothetically.
Oh no, I knew Catherine Full Body came out on Vita in Japan. I do know that.
Yeah. No, because there is at least one game out there that technically does require 2 carts to play. So I'm thinking that it was probably easier for them when they were making the mold to just have a side that holds 2, because
okay.
It already uses so much space for it. But yes, that is why there's 2. It is a little bit odd sometimes. But yeah, I am like such like a, and I know for most people are like you. I know most people don't care any metal cases like a steelbook for it. It's just one of those odd cases of like, I've seen so many and I've enjoyed like collecting and really getting into it, that like the really nerdy side of it, like I like having them all presented. Like when you don't have a lot, like I honestly didn't even really think about my steelbooks much when I was collecting early on. Whereas like now when I have like as many as I do, I really like having them all like have that uniformity, but also their like unique look really helps them stand out. Which then also makes the stickler in me come out way more as like the graphic design degree person comes out, where it's like, okay, you did it like, because there are those times where like Spider-Man PS4 is a really great example of that game made a really minimal steelbook, and I appreciate what it was trying for, but I think if they did a little more like the European version, it would really help. The European version is the exact same, but on the reverse, instead of just all red, it is a unique drawing they got. I think there was a theme of it, but it's the like a basically just a shot of like Spider-Man like swinging up from like the like streets for it, which just makes it a lot nice because like there's already so much just red and nothing else. It kind of helps fill that empty space with something unique.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. The one, and we'll stop talking about steelbooks after this. The one that recent one that I've gotten that like I literally like just kept looking at it when I got it was the Fire Emblem Three Houses one. That one is gorgeous. Like probably my favorite, or not my favorite out of my collection, but definitely like objectively probably the best one.
I'm assuming. Did you get the one from the U.S. Collector's Edition?
Yeah, yeah, and it's like this purple and gold like stained glass type steelbook, and it looks like it's like stained glass kind of when you look at it, and man, it's shiny, it's pretty. I still need to finish Three Houses by the way, but I think Fire Emblem is like the one franchise where I have like every collector like U.S. collector's edition because Awakening didn't get one in America, and then I got the Fate Special Edition that was extremely hard to get here apparently.
Oh man, I was just gonna ask if you got the collector's edition steelbook for Fates. I forgot we didn't get it in the West. Have you seen?
Yeah, there was no steelbook. Yeah, there's no steelbook, but I got it has the reversible arts and the two-sided. You know, the one side is Conquest, one side is Birthright, and then the other side is something completely different.
Revelations, right?
Yeah, Revelations is the third game, but the art is just completely different on the other side.
Gotcha.
Too bad Fates was not good. And then yeah, I got the Shadows of Valentia Collector's Edition as well, which is really cool. I really like that game. And then I got Three Houses, which again like really cheap. I think it was $80 or $100 for an art book, like a big ass art book. The steel book, I think a sound selection CD, solid collector's edition. So yeah.
You know what? I was just curious though. We're gonna finally kind of get back on topic, but I am curious. Do you have the collector's edition from the Wii U release of Tokyo Mirage Sessions?
I don't. I'm a fraud.
I want it. I bet you could get that pretty cheap on eBay. I cannot imagine those go for a lot of money.
And here's the thing though, because I'm like one of those weird. I don't know if it is weird or not, but I'm one of those people that likes to get my things new, like regardless of price. Like unless it's like absurdly like overpriced, then that's different. But like if I were to get that, I would want to find a sealed one, and pay whatever it would have to be for it. But I definitely plan on getting it at some point. I definitely want to get that. I really hope that Tokyo Mirage Sessions becomes a big enough success in America where Atlas will start merchandising things for Tokyo Mirage Sessions, because it's like, as far as I know, when the Wii U version came out, all that was that like official merch was like these 3 keychains that were pre-order exclusives in Japan, which I looked on eBay, like I can't find them. I couldn't find them. Because I played that game day one when it hit the Wii U, and I couldn't find it anywhere to purchase. And then the special editions, which come with the things that it comes with. That's like all that game has, and it's a shame because that game fucking rules.
That's really interesting though. I'd forgotten that up until actually really recently with the Switch version, and I was talking to a fellow content creator LaRue about it, who's a really big TMS fan as well, and there's just not a lot. Even like if you do look out there, like the best thing we kind of really have outside of those pre-order bonuses and stuff is like there's an art book, there's a soundtrack, and they never did anything else. There's no figures. There's like
Nope.
They never really did a lot of collaborative events. Like it was very, very, very minor. But I'm really glad though that Tokyo Mirage Sessions is kind of now had its second chance. It's back on the Switch.
Which I'm still in denial. I'm still like in that slight. I've beaten the game. I reviewed the game, and I'm still in that slight denial that it's reality. That it's a reality that this game exists on the Switch now, because according to Atlas, if I remember correctly, they considered that game a success. But
hold on, we might have some caveats. Are we talking Atlas Japan? I'm assuming you're talking.
I'm talking about like just as a they're technically two different sectors. Like I'm talking about just in general. Like in general, Atlas considered. Like it's kind of like a similar situation to Catherine, the original Catherine on PS3 and Xbox 360. Like, it didn't do amazing in America.
Oh, no, dude, 100% the opposite. Whoa, no. In Japan, it did okay. Like, when that game came to the West, they had never had a release sell as well as quickly. Like, within a month, that game sold 100,000 units, which Atlas USA had never done that quickly. I remember they, like, made huge press releases and had, like, a big, like, celebration post about that they had sold 100K on both platforms in America alone. Because they hadn't even gotten the European version at that point until a couple of months. No. It was Japan where the sales were really soft. In America, Catherine, by Atlas USA standards, 100K was beyond what they thought it would ever do.
Sure, I mean that's fine. It's just more what I'm trying to say is like it just like it sold it sold a lot in America, but I just think like in general between like worldwide compared to other titles, it wasn't like great. Like, and with Tokyo Mirage Sessions, like, I think that was kind of, it felt like the same sense. Like, when I went to pick up my copy at GameStop on day one, none of the employees knew what game I was talking about. Like, no one.
Now you're talking Wii U, right?
Yeah, the Wii U version. No one knew what I was talking about. And then it literally took them a few minutes to find the game for me. And then whenever, for the first few months, it was still on the shelf, $60, whatever. And then for 2 years, it was clearance. It just, no one bought it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I was just there's no way. There's no way this game is going to get a Switch port. But on Twitter, I would always keep pushing for it. This game needs, if this game came to Switch where it had a high player base, I swear this game would excel so well in America. Especially after the success of Persona 5 and everyone wanting Persona 5 on Switch and oh, this is the closest thing we're going to get to Persona 5. I'm it's not Persona. It's not Persona. Anyway, so it's just, it's still just in that sense something that I can't believe is still a reality. Because I vividly remember watching the direct where it got announced, and I just, I was laying on my bed, covering it for DualShockers, and with, talking to my coworkers. And I literally just leapt out of my bed, and just started screaming and going crazy. And man, I'm so happy that game is on Switch now. And everyone who got the game because of my recommendations and my consistent praise about that game, everyone's really loving it, which makes me very happy and very validated as a games journalist because I was worried that this game would turn a lot of people off, or it was just too out there for some people. But I think it's gotten to the point for a lot of gamers because JRPGs as a genre seems just from a wider audience as the niche genre in general, which is weird to me as someone who it's their favorite genre. But it seems that within the past years, especially with the success of Persona 5, that people have started to be more open to JRPGs and more niche titles. So that's really great to see. And I think if it wasn't for the success of Persona 5, maybe Tokyo Mirage Sessions wouldn't be doing as well, with people willing to pick up the title and giving it a fair shake and things like that. So,
well, I gotta say, I know I immediately had a kindred spirit connection when I had sent over to you when, I think it was when I had interviewed Cam. Somehow you had popped up in the comments on Twitter, and I had mentioned how big of a fan I was, that I did a reaction to it getting announced at that Direct, and you also being the only other person I know who would be manly enough to post a video of them fanning for this, basically fangirling out because this miracle game came out that for all business purposes had no real reason to ever come out again.
Yeah, man, yeah.
So I wanna kind of get into this now. There's a couple of different factors I want to talk about with you, but first off, let's talk about, let's try and condense this into a Twitter size, not review, a Twitter size thoughts on the game in terms of everything you've played. Doesn't have to be a positive, doesn't have to be negative. Just you've now played this much of Tokyo Mirage Sessions Encore. What do you write with your 240 characters?
I'm a little biased because I love JRPGs, but I think when it comes to Nintendo exclusives, I think it's the best game on the platform. Because for those who don't know me and listening to me, I have pretty unpopular opinions when it comes to a lot of video games. I really don't Breath of the Wild was not it for me. I played that game for a few hours and I got bored so fast, and I don't have much of a connection to that franchise because of completely different topics regarding just not having access to playing them, having severe arachnophobia, and there are spiders in a lot of the games, so can't play them. So the only other game I played before that was Wind Waker, and which I fucking adore. That game's great. But yeah, Breath of the Wild wasn't it for me. Mario Odyssey, it's great, but it's just kind of more Mario, which isn't a bad thing. It's just, okay, cool. Fire Emblem is phenomenal, fan-fucking-tastic. But I think that Tokyo Mirage Sessions, I think it just offers something that no other game on that platform does. And the thing that I really like about it is that even though it sounds ridiculous, but as a JRPG, it's a relatively shorter experience.
Oh my god, I know. That is that game's biggest selling point that I tell people.
Yeah.
Especially now that the Switch version is out, and how dramatically faster it feels just because of the technical
The load times are almost non-existent.
It's like you're playing a different game. How fast I blew through that first dungeon compared to when I played it on Wii U, I was like,
Yep.
Wow, okay, here we go.
Yep.
I totally agree with you in the sense of how unique it is for the Switch, especially as Nintendo Switch doesn't actually have a lot of, especially for first party, but even third party for big JRPGs, the system just doesn't really have a lot of big things for it. The only ones that always come to my mind is Dragon Quest XI and Octopath Traveler, and also Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Besides,
I love Xenoblade Chronicles 2. That's a great game. I understand people's problems with that game, 100% valid, but because I have yet to play the first, which I will once the definitive edition comes out on Switch this year. I was sold on what they showed me in the trailers and the gameplay, and I bought the collector's edition like blindly, and thankfully I just fucking love that game. I love that game.
Yeah. So and obviously if you take the exclusive ones kind of out of the way, like that knocks off Dragon Quest, like there hasn't been a big RPG, especially from Nintendo, since Octopath Traveler, at least in terms of published. Obviously, there have been other companies like Idea Factory, Koei Tecmo. Like there are big JRPG series, but nothing from Nintendo, nothing that is not part of a series. This is a one-off game. Like you mentioned, it's not super long. The battles go really fast. So even like when people tell me, oh, I'm not a fan of the whole like Japanese like culture in my games, or the J-pop side of it really turns me off, or even people who are like, oh, I don't really like the story, I will tell them like, you know what, there's a skip and fast forward button for almost every aspect of the game for that very reason. Like this version of the game specifically to me feels like they wanted to make this game play as fast or as slow as you possibly want it. Like I know one of the biggest new changes is the quick session thing, which I did on and off a lot, and I kept thinking to myself, this is really helpful if someone got sick of watching those animations over and over. But I think a testament to the game's design and especially the presentation, I'm over like 30 hours into the game now, and I would gladly watch every single session play out beat after beat after beat, especially because of how long they can get now with all the added layers and all the new people who can get added into it, like Tiki, like Barry, and things like that.
100%. Yeah, I turned it on just to see what it was like, and then I turned it back off because I just love the animations and the style and presentation that it shows. And I think maybe when it got to a little bit towards the end of the game, I turned it on again for a short minute just because I was getting close to like needing to write up the review and embargo and stuff and dealing with embargo. But like as someone who would just play it if I wasn't reviewing it, I would always have the quick session off so I could see the presentation, because that is like literally the top thing that makes me love that game is the session mechanic. It's awesome.
So, because you've actually beaten Encore and I'm still about halfway through, for everyone out there listening, how much time do you think it really took you to play through it, and how much of the like side quests and requests did you do along the way until you rolled credits?
So, if you haven't played the game, or if you are currently playing through the game, do all the side quests because they give you things that will help you in battle.
It honestly just makes it harder if you don't do the side quests. It's really funny.
Yeah, and then you don't get the character development, or for in some instances. So you should do all the side quests. Like some of them are honestly fetch quests, but the development of each character that you when doing them, it makes it worth it.
Well, and even like the most fetch questy ones, like I know like Toma's like first one where he wants to train to audition for that role. Like it is, okay, kill 3 slimes or whatever. Like that can be a really boring, dumb quest for it. But what makes it feel more personal, along with the dialogue that happens during, before, and after it, is the fact that no, it's not, hey, go kill 3 slimes. It is he has to kill them. You are training Toma. You are training him up specifically. You can't just kill 3 people immediately. Like you can't just turn on auto battle and then collect the reward. So if even like the little minute fetch quests and stuff like that feel more personal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's and with certain characters, I won't say specifically who, because if you're not far enough in the game, then you'd be a little bit confused. But certain characters, like the side quests, like almost directly inject like how that character feels about Itsuki when you get to really important story moments, like main story moments, and I don't think you would appreciate or really understand why that person said that thing, and you get those interactions between that character and Itsuki. Yeah, so definitely play through the side quests because they are beneficial in basically every way. And then uh, if you're asking like how
Just
long
like
it took.
yeah, like rough estimate from like beginning to end for
So
you.
if you don't really care about the quick set like the sessions and you do the quick session option, I would say you could beat this game in like somewhere between 42 and 45 hours.
Hmm.
For me, it took me just over 50 to beat it. And as someone who has played the game before, I really didn't have any issues going through the game. So like, there might be those instances where like uh, there was like like a main boss where I forgot what its like gimmick is, and I got roasted in one turn. I'm like, oh, got to restart that, and now that I know what it is again, but because I was playing the game on hard difficulty this time around, because again I like challenges, and I got the game really early, so I felt like I had enough time where I could play through it.
What,
I
by
don't,
the way, was this your first time playing on hard? Did you ever do that on the Wii U
yeah.
version?
No, I played on. I think I played on normal when I played on the Wii U, but I'm definitely going to play through it on Lunatic at some point
I
for
was
sure.
gonna say, yeah, I'll be very curious to see what you think, because the changes that they've done, especially like I've seen a lot of boss battles with Lunatic mode so far, and like New Game Plus, it's almost like you're playing a whole different other fight. Like the bosses in particular are really, really big standouts for the combat system
Mhm.
to really shine and really show you like how deep it can be. Because
Yeah.
I was listening to the Tokyo Mirage Sessions segment from Nintendo Voice Chat. I super rarely ever listen to that anymore, but I just kind of liked hearing as much feedback from other people in the media about this game as possible, especially because so many are playing it for the first time. And I thought
Yeah.
it was so apparent to me how early they were in the game, where they were like, oh, the battle system's really easy. You're not really going into the menus and changing things around a lot. Like you're only
Oh
changing your
my God.
weapon. Like you're only changing your weapons. It's not that real deep. But it's like wow. Like
You're so wrong.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's like
like,
it's so hard when you're so engrossed in it.
you're like,
Especially when you're listening to something, to just be like, wow. Outside of the fact I don't want to write a comment about how wrong this is, it like hurts for me to listen to how wrong
like,
this is.
you're like that criticism sounds like every JRPG ever.
Hmm.
Like, oh, it's very easy at first. Well, yeah, because it needs to evolve into something more. That's every JRPG. Like, Final Fantasy VII doesn't start off super intricate. It's pretty simple, and then when you get all the different materia and things like that, like that's how the game evolves. Like, oh, that's frustrating. Like, because I will admit that playing through this a second time, it takes longer than I would like for the additional mechanics that are put into the sessions, um, or just the gameplay in general.
Oh yeah, you
It takes
basically have to beat a third of the game before you get to experience what makes Encore Encore outside of the technical side of it with the loads.
Yeah, because like, well, not even that. Just like with the combat, like, I feel like it takes a little bit too long for when the special performances kick in, and I feel like it takes way too long, like not way too long, but pretty long for the duo arts to kick in. And I wish that like if those, if like at least duo arts like were introduced like maybe one chapter earlier.
Oh, okay. I was just about to being like, okay, I just wanted to clarify, because you're talking about when you can obtain them, not how long they take in battle.
Yeah, no, 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 no,
Gotcha,
no,
gotcha,
no,
gotcha.
no, no, no. Just like when they're implemented into the gameplay,
Hmm.
because like I feel like by the time you get the duo arts, you're already somewhat nearing the end of the game. You're nearing like like I think like the second to last chapter, and it's just like, man, I really wish these mechanics were around earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Um,
honestly, I think I give that more of a pass in the general sense of, okay, this almost more like lands on the side of these are really interesting mechanics. You wish you could get your hands on them sooner, but at the same time, we also know there's not much more gameplay after it is unlocked. Like we want to do more. We want to dive deep, and I really hope that if depending on by the time I beat this, assuming I'm not like swamped with a couple other things I want to get through, I'd be very interested to see how I feel about New Game Plus in terms of what that battle system really feels like again on a new like profiles brought over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't started New Game Plus yet. I know that if you do New Game Plus on Lunatic, you lose all your weapons. Mm-hmm. Like, you lose all your weapon progression. But if you do it on a different difficulty, then you get that, you get that carried over. So it's one of those things like, I would like to play through New Game Plus with the new weapons just to see how the game can fully evolve that way. But also I don't want to play through the game like it's not gonna happen anytime soon. But like, if I wanted to really experience everything this game has to offer the way I want to, I would have to play this game like 3 more times. Mm-hmm. And there are just way too many games. Like, no matter how much I love this game, there's way too many games that exist for me to take the time to do that. Especially knowing like there's so many JRPGs that I still haven't played that I want to play.
Yeah, and also you're not doing yourself a favor. Like, that's gonna be like the quickest way to like burn yourself out on this game. Like
exactly.
Like, so most people don't really get to experience the review process, and like obviously it was nice because you had a lot more time before the release. You didn't really have to rush it. But like especially when you get like an RPG to review, and if you're on like a time crunch or even like a soft deadline for yourself, it can make that experience so much less enjoyable. And like, these games aren't meant to be played as quick as possible, beginning to end. Pick it up, put it down, never touch it again. Like, there is that like comfort in knowing, hey, you know what? Next January, if nothing's slow again, I could pick this game back up again and have more fun with it.
Yeah, I'm actually really hoping that I get to review Persona 5 Royal for DualShockers, because if I do that, then I might it'll give me more time to, similar to Tokyo Mirage Sessions, to try and play as much as I can leading up to the launch and everything like that, or the embargo, because now that I'm done, I finished the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC yesterday. I have nothing like new 2020 related games coming out for me until Doom Eternal, which is a week before Persona 5 Royal. And like, honestly, if I'm reviewing Persona 5 Royal, I can wait on Doom. Like, I'll finish Persona and then I'll go to Doom after, because so it would be nice if I could review that one as well. That'd be really nice. And
now, among like the DualShocker staff, are there like, do you guys kind of fight for the big RPG games, or at least because I remember for me, like, anytime I've ever like worked at like a lot of editorial websites, all the really big 100-hour RPG games are like, oh god, please, no one take this, no one wants it.
So when I first started at DualShockers, I would go through, even if it was a game I never even heard of, I would go through every game on our like reviews list for the month, and like look up a trailer, look up gameplay if there was any, and like choose my games that way. Quickly did I learn that like, and if you ever end up writing for a site or anything like that, I would suggest you do this too. Like, only really request the games that you are expecting yourself to play, regardless if you review it or not, because like, if not, you're kind of wasting your time reviewing a game that you have really no interest in, or potentially no interest in. Because I reviewed a game called which it's not always like a bad situation. It just can be, like, there's the potential for it. Like, I played this JRPG last year called Crystar, which I think the narrative was really good. Like, the narrative was great, but basically everything else about that game was very generic, and it was like a 30 to 40 hour JRPG, and I was just banging my head against the wall because I wanted it to be over, especially because it implements spoilers for Crystar, by the way.
There's one guy you just broke his heart. He's got to skip ahead now. He's like, no, man, I was just about to get there.
There's a time travel concept in that story, so you're kind of repeating the same levels over and over again. So I'm doing these generic levels with pretty generic combat over and over again, and I'm just like, the story's good, y'all, but I need to be done with this game because it's driving me insane.
Have
So
you ever heard of a little game called Bravely Default for the Nintendo 3DS?
I have not played it.
Okay, don't. It is the definition of what you just described, but stretched out over a 200-hour RPG, where I'm not kidding you, and I don't even care that this spoils it because this game literally is an insult to trying to beat it. It does a fake out ending, which a lot of games will kind of do, where you beat the game, roll credits, and then, oh, hey, there's more to the game with it. The game does that over 5 times, but the post-game part of rolling credits isn't, hey, there's new content. It makes you replay through the whole game again with very minimal changes over 5 different times to stretch out the game to over 200 hours to lead to a very underwhelming ending. And if you want to talk about a game, like, I knew someone who had to, like, review that game in, like, a month-long deadline. That broke him. That series, and even, like, Octopath, it was just like, oh my god, this developer is so... there was just no care for, like, the player. Because at that point, it's not even, oh, this isn't fun because I'm reviewing it. It just broke into the point of, like, okay, you've just made your game not fun for everybody.
Then why do people really like that series?
Most people like that series because it was a very nostalgic callback for the time in a era where Square Enix wasn't really leaning on old school RPGs, and most people who like Bravely Default have not beaten it all the way. Most people rolled credits once and were like, I'm gonna put this down. I've experienced enough of it. Because most people don't need to know that, but that game's end game is so insulting, I feel the need to tell it to as many people as possible, because, like, Bravely Default has, like, seriously one of the worst, like, end game requirements I've ever seen in any game.
That's good to know because I was planning on playing that sometime in the future, but probably not now.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, worth it to kind of look up. That developer, I've always enjoyed what they tried to do, but just nothing ever really clicked for me. Even like stuff like Final Fantasy IV, like their version of it, I never really cared about. I'm kind of jaded in the sense of I've never really liked Final Fantasy III and things like that. It's funny. I think the team who worked on that have, like, they're like the opposite of Tokyo RPG Factory, where Tokyo RPG Factory, I really like their gameplay, and I think their story needs a lot more work, whereas the team who makes the Bravely Default games really, really need to work on their gameplay loop, but always have a really solid story and music.
Yeah, yeah, no, speaking of them, I wasn't a huge fan of Octopath Traveler. I was actually relatively disappointed in that game. Like, I really enjoyed the gameplay, but it was the story where I was just like, okay, so these characters are together, but each mission for each character is just about them, and it was, I don't know, it felt very disjointed in that sense. Like, I thought the art style and all that stuff was gorgeous, but it was just like how they executed the story and things like that that just kind of killed that experience for me. I didn't even finish it. I want to go back to it, but we'll see.
I'll say this though, because I kind of did what I get really annoyed at myself. Bravely Default, its series creator and producer on it, worked on Octopath Traveler. They are not the same development studio though. Do you know who developed Octopath?
I don't remember the studio name now.
It was actually developed by Acquire. The guys who did I always remember them from this really, really, really obscure Vita launch game like Shinobi Do 2. They're like just one of those like kind of like odd like B tier level Japanese development teams, but because of the way the games have always been presented, people always think the guys who made Bravely Default worked on Octopath Traveler. But it's really just like some of the producing teams of it.
Yeah, I'm looking at these games right now under their creation, their whatever their the history of the games they made, and none of these ring a bell to me.
That's why I said B. That's why I said there may be like a low B, high C on a bad day.
Yeah, they seem like a bunch of like C tier JRPGs.
So, speaking of games that are not C tier, let's get back to Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I have a very light ball question I want to pick your brain for.
Sure.
What was your reaction when starting up Encore for the first time, and after you selected the difficulty, it said, how do you want Tsubasa's glasses? Do you want them on always? Do you want them off? Do you want us to pick? This is a very important decision.
I thought it was like I knew it was a feature that they added in Encore, and I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll add glasses. And then because I played the game before, and then when I saw her, I was just like, nope, take them off. I was just like, take those glasses off. You don't wear glasses.
So what's really funny is the story behind that is the artist who does all the art, which, by the way, I super, super, super love how they have a lot of his art very prominently used in the game menu. The main artist, whose name I'm totally going to forget, but he has a huge hard-on for drawing his characters with and without glasses. So, like, it's not fair to say he has a glasses fetish because, like, he himself cannot decide sometimes whether he likes his characters more with or without glasses, preferably female most than anything. So, like, through the development, it was so hard for him to pick if he liked her with or without glasses that he decided, okay, so canonically and in all the art, and also to make my life easier, I'm going to have all of her in-game art with no glasses. But even the Wii U version, you could go to settings and change if she had glasses or not. And the fact that the third option is let the game randomly pick for you, that is specifically in there because he himself can never decide whether she has glasses or not. It's really, really funny.
That is really funny. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if it was like different types of glass, I thought the glasses kind of looked weird, like they were just a weird style of glasses as well. But yeah, once I saw her with the glasses on, I'm like, nah, this won't work. So I took it off. But it's cool. It's cool that they added that feature for those who care.
All like that is the 1% of glasses fans out there. Like when you have that minute of like a setting in your game. I'm trying to think what's another thing I kind of want to get into talking about Encore specifically. Oh yeah, because we were talking about like how the game handles your time, and I know you don't play a lot of Atlas remakes kind of compared to the other ones, where Atlas has a tendency to re-release like enhanced version of their games years and years and years after their release.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about all of the, well, at least the majority of the new content with the EX dungeon, to be specific, and all the costumes you had to get to after Chapter 2?
I was okay with it. The EX, there's 3 chapters, so there's 3 like floors, but each one, unlocks as you progress. Mm-hmm. And with that being kind of like the main new content of sorts, comparatively to, Catherine Full Body or P5R, P4 Golden, I'm glad, like, I'm actually like really okay with the fact that there's really like no huge chunk of story stuff that was added, because I think the story's perfect the way it is. I don't know where they would have added new story stuff.
It is especially hard because that game is very linear from like a JRPG standard. Like, yes, you can explore, yes, you can do side quests, but yeah, there's not like sections where it's divvied off. Like, you're not ever going to their school and walking around. You're, for the most part, just walking around Tokyo.
Yeah. So, yeah, for me, I was just like, I thought it was perfect. Honestly, I would have taken the game the way it was on the Wii U, but on the Switch, because it just deserves to be on a platform with a bigger player base. But yeah, I thought it was fine. It was, they made some cool additions. The one thing I really wanted, we didn't get, which was like an English voiceover.
Oh no! Okay, now we have to talk about this. All right,
yeah.
Explain why. And I'm a dubs over subs guy. 88.99999 million% of the time. I love dubs. I grew up on dubs. I'm not a dub snob. what part of this game were you playing and went, it would be better with a dub?
I just think it. Well, okay. So the main reason why I wanted a dub was when they talk to each other during combat, when they're doing the session, and they're just like, you hear them saying each other's names.
Does it annoy you that that's not translated? Because I hear that complaint brought up a lot, that those parts of the games is not translated.
Yeah, I wish it was. Like, if it was translated, I think I would be okay with it being completely subbed, because I think having the Japanese voices adds a certain amount of charm to the game. But and I think that I do think a big reason why they didn't do a dub originally was because they didn't think the game was going to sell well, or the game didn't have a very large budget.
It did not. It had one localization editor for the most part from Atlas. Like Nintendo basically flew one person from Atlas USA up to their office. They localized the game. Nintendo read all their stuff through Treehouse internal, but for the most part, the localization of that game was a one-person team.
Yeah, straight up, if they, especially knowing that they got people to dub them for Fire Emblem Heroes, like legitimately.
How do you feel about those voices? Because it's hard for me to judge them unbiasedly because I'm so accustomed to these characters being only in Japanese that hearing them in that trailer for the Fire Emblem Heroes event they are having right now, it was just way too jarring for me. I couldn't even take it seriously.
I thought the only one that seemed off to me was Kiria. I thought Kiria would have been deeper, more like mature sounding, but I thought Tsubasa was fine. I thought Ellie was fine. I thought Momori was fine. It's fine.
I will say this: they definitely were poking the censorship bear with Tsubasa's first line in that trailer. The first line she says dubbed in that trailer is, "Hi, I'm Tsubasa. I'm an 18-year-old high school student." And I'm like, oh, why do you got to bring the age up? You're just gonna be asking for it now.
Yeah, whatever. That's I don't know. Because so let's talk about censorship now.
I would love to, because honestly, my opinion has not changed after playing through it, but the biggest part of that game, in case anyone's not played it, the Chapter 2 dungeon is really the biggest culprit of the censorship change. And since it's been so many years, my opinion on it's kind of changed more in the sense of, for anyone who doesn't know, the second chapter in the story basically goes over a photographer, and it's his dungeon that you're infiltrating. So in the original Japanese release, this whole chapter of the story is about Tsubasa getting more entangled in idol life, and originally it was going to be like a bikini model shoot. And the weird thing about this is not that they changed it to be more like they got rid of all the bikinis and swimsuits and changed it. I guess is the best way to like kind of write how the clothes are is just like fashionista, like hipstery clothes. Like, how would you like describe the outfits they wear now?
Yeah, it's like
It looks like a Gap.
Yeah,
it's like if a Gap commercial in 90s hip hop like had a music video like photo shoot. That's kind of what they made the clothes for. My biggest problem with that, and it's not as the censorship as a whole, is that they never really changed the core of that chapter's story. That chapter's story is about becoming comfortable in your own body by your own standards and not letting other people kind of force you into positions you don't want to be, which, if you don't know a lot about idol culture, is a very interesting and fascinating conversation that you could really have. The game doesn't really get as deep as possible, so obviously it doesn't really get to those layers. It is most prevalent, though, when you go into your director's office and you find her old swimsuit magazine, which is just labeled a whatever book now. But that moment of, even though it's like played off for laughs of like they open it up like it's a porn mag and there's bright lights shining on everyone and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm looking at this. That message is rung home a lot more hollow when it's just like, I'm just looking at her in cool outfits. This is so weird. While all the boys are acting like, holy crap, look how hot she is. It feels very inconsistent, which has been the word I've used to describe the censorship the most. Like, it doesn't upset me that it's there. I didn't have any part of my opinion on the game changed because of the censorship. It's just all so uneven. It just really feels like it was slapdashed in there, even though they did go through a lot of efforts to change Japanese dialogue for stuff like ages and made new assets. Like, they made all of these new outfits and assets just for the Western version and the Switch release of this game. It's like really crazy how much effort from a development side went into it, but from a story-wise, it just feels like it suffered for the most part in Chapter 2 more than anything.
Yeah, it's like at the end of the day, it's just like, oh, instead of bikinis, you got like this weird Japanese hip hop, whatever.
They're so hard to describe because it's just like, okay, she's wearing a sideways baseball cap and has capris on, I guess.
Yeah, it was one of those things like, the thing is like, you're not wrong, but also like I really kind of like the story aspects of that chapter.
Oh yeah, like the story I really like. I think it's really interesting of like your director's old boyfriend is now the photographer. People are going missing. It's a really interesting aspect of the story. It's just that ending I think makes it end on such a flat note where the big reveal of like she's standing up to the like director's mirage by unveiling her outfit and having it just be, I'm in different clothes now. Like, that statement of, like, whether you would have preferred bikinis or not, like, there is that aspect of, no, I'm not just undressing, I'm revealing myself, I am exposing myself, I'm visibly uncomfortable, but I can't allow that to show because I'm an idol. This is part of the job, I knew that's going into it, and it is Tsubasa's journey of, like, accepting what that means.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it is interesting because it's just like, so you're okay with like the Subasa's Kiss ad-lib performance outfit, but she can't wear a bikini in a cutscene, like
or have a wedding dress with cleavage, even though there are other outfits with cleavage and bosses with cleavage in the game.
Yeah, it was really odd. But at the end of the day, I posted this on Twitter the other day too, and I just don't get the mentality for people that will just refuse to purchase a game if there's any form of censorship, like even if it's in the smallest regard. And I'm just like if y'all need to like see teenage girls in in bikinis or less, go watch porn. I don't know, like.
Legal,
go watch,
legal, please, legal.
Yeah, go watch hentai. I don't know, like it doesn't make sense to me. It's just like and this is coming from someone who like doesn't like censorship. Like I don't like the idea of certain things being altered or changed for a different country or whatever it may be. But literally deciding I'm not going to buy this game because of it is just silly to me. I don't know. Like
it's very interesting because that has become way bigger of a deal over the last couple of years. Like I remember the first time that community, because it is a vocal minority for a reason. Like it is not that big of a thing in terms of like the overall community. But I remember my first experience with that side of the gaming community was when Koei Tecmo announced Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 3 is not coming out in the West, because of the content in it would just get like roasted. Like, not that we'd be forced to censor it, but because they were like, we're aware of how most people in the West would view this game. It's better for us to let you guys import it. We've already made it all in English. Go for it. And there was that divide of, hey, bring it over anyways. We should be able to buy whatever we want judgment free. And then the other people on the other side of like, hey, why do you want to buy this dumb, stupid perv game? So that was like the first time of me kind of really getting into it. And this is an interesting case of a lot of factors, because Nintendo has been getting way more and more liberal. Like when this game released in 2015 on the Wii U, yes, the original Japanese Wii U version, so all the censorship changes don't apply. The weird thing about it was Nintendo had been censoring other things, like especially in the West, like Fire Emblem Fates. They took out like the petting minigame and different things like that. If they were being a lot more stern and strict, whereas Sony was the company who's like, okay, release Galgun on Vita, we don't care, whatever you want. So now Nintendo's been a lot more lax of straight up just, whether it be on purpose or not, like they've just let hardcore porn on the eShop sometimes. It's look it up, guys. It's happened. Like the eShop is the Wild West of whatever you want on there, we'll put on there for a price. But the fact that this game, they went back and for its international release took the North American version and made that the default option worldwide, I find so interesting because from Nintendo's aspect of it, I think they didn't really have anything to lose either way. But I feel like they could have, when this game originally got announced, remember, they showed off the Japanese version that wasn't censored for the Western and the Japanese press for Encore. And then they later on started changing things on the website. Originally, my guess was, well, Nintendo has all these assets that they put into the game for the censored and the uncensored version. Why not just make that like a toggle? Because imagine how the reception would be of, okay, well, do whatever you want with the age, but the big thing with a lot of fans is, hey, I like these costumes, I like these swimsuits, I like the original wedding dress outfit. Like, I want those in the game as an option of just having everything and to make it just be a toggle you switch of, like, do you want things to be like this? Which version of the cutscene? Like, having those options would have basically covered your bases and at the same time made everyone happy because all the content from all versions is in this, for lack of a better words, definitive edition of Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, like,
it's tough because it's like, at the end of the day, I never think about this outside of Chapter 2. The changes do not affect my opinion, and I almost forget about them more than like any other aspect of the game. Like the game outshines it so much, but it just is tough because like there is a conversation to be had there, but it's just like so it just drives everything else to like a stop because it's just such a weird edge case for everything else. Because outside of things and how they look, it affects nothing else in the game. The gameplay does not change
exactly.
At all.
Like that's the main thing that I like. Like I try and I just tell people like it doesn't in any way affect the quality of the overall product. So why like I understand like you have a like in a sense it's a principle thing for you and I respect the like protest against it and I guess is the way I would put it, but it's just such a great game that it's more of a disservice not playing the game with it being censored than like not playing it because it's censored. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. And also I think censored almost has like a negative like connotation in the sense of like it's like a dirty word of like at the end of the day there was never anything graphic that was changed. Like the most graphic thing in the game that just straight up got removed was 2 different cutscenes of them at a hot spring. Like that was the most graphic thing they removed from the game, which at the end of the day was DLC to unlock costumes and had a 2-minute cutscene with boys and girls.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I don't get it. I don't know. Well, I don't know what the decision was behind. Well, okay, because like here's the thing though, because I don't see why it would be an issue to fix, but they would also like if they were to have gone with the non-censored version, they would have had to have changed like Tsubasa's age and like other things like that. So who knows if literally just like living everything in the Japanese version the same except for like the age of the girls to something to 18 or up, would people be like, oh, nope, they changed it, so it's censorship.
I was just gonna say if they did that and they left everything in the game unchanged except her age, that would be the best thing ever. Of like it's like the world's quickest game of how to get yourself on To Catch a Predator.
Yeah, exactly.
If your only complaint is she's now 18
she's now
and not 17.
She's now at a legal age, so I must protest. It's like, okay, pedophile.
Don't worry, dude. We still got Tiki. She's technically only 3 years or like 5 years old in the game in terms of computer logic. So at least we have Tiki for the underage representation.
Yeah, cool.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. On a less censorship note, I have an example, but I want you to kind of think what is a, whether it be big, small, or whatever, of either a criticism or something that you kind of wish would change in the game. I have to say one thing that really stood out for me. The game graphically, though, is almost identical to the Wii U version, and I've done a lot of comparisons,
Yeah.
whether it be through like companies like I know Digital Foundry did one, and there's a couple other places like online who have put both versions through its paces. Like performance-wise, it is miles and above a lot better. Graphically, it is exactly the same kind of game, even all the way to resolution and stuff. The one odd thing for me is that there are some textures that I don't get why they weren't like knocked up. And going back to Chapter 2, that whole dungeon looks really good with the exception of all of the photographs are really, really heavily pixelated and blurry. And it's really odd because no other asset in any of the other dungeons that I remember had that from even the Wii U release. And I don't know if you can kind of recall or even like look this up. Like, do you remember what I'm talking about? Like when you're going through the photographer's dungeon, how he has the different pictures of the girls that he's kidnapped. Do you remember like how blurry those looked by comparison of everything else in the game?
I don't.
I have a picture, and I'll try and see if I can like get an
I think
example.
those. I think that was a creative choice, though.
It makes no sense because think about it, like why would the photographer's pictures be blurry? Like the film
Part of it's probably because it's highly suggested that they're like lewd photos.
See, I think if like they went into that and like just made it like almost like so pixely it looked like it was censored, that would be cool. But it's like it doesn't get over that line, and it just looks like, hey, we have to reuse an asset a lot through these like 2 or 3 levels, so let's just like lower its like quality and just like copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. It's like a super minor thing, but it's just one of those odd things of that game's presentation and everything looks so good that until there's like something like bam right in my face, I'm looking at it for like 5 hours. Like there are moments in that game where like I keep reminding myself like, wow, like not even for a Wii U game this looks good. It's like, no, as a 2020 game, Tokyo Mirage Sessions still looks really, really good. And it's important for people to remember that that game actually predates Persona 5. So a lot of it's really stylish like menus and like battle systems and stuff like that. Obviously it's not using like the shaders and the darks and reds and everything for that. But like the amount of times that I will just look at the main menu selection where it is just all the characters laying on the grassy fields in the Bloom Palace is just so cool and so relaxing, and it's just very much like that game. Like the way they use their bright colors and like whether you are running around and oh man, I forgot like until I picked it up because it's been a couple years since I even touched the Wii U version after I beat it. Just that little touch of the faceless people just being different like colors, and even though they're like reusing the same like 10 to 20 models of civilians, like you get that like vibe. And there's only ever been like one anime that did something similar to it that I remember predating it but still working really, really well. It's Durarara, which is like a light novel, manga, and anime, and they have a very similar thing of, hey, guess what, if you're not a main character or someone you can interact with, there's no point in us making these crazy detailed models, but not going the Persona 5 route, where Persona 5 everyone just kind of blends in, they have no real facial features or details, is these are very clearly background fodder. They move around, they're people, but them being just a bright pink blob moving around, that's all they need to be.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I think it adds to the presentation that, and like especially like when their performers take in and then they turn to gray, and they're like lifeless in that sense. I think it's a really nice touch to, they're basically working with what they have, which is like something that I like to tell a lot of people, like, which might be considered a hot take for most, but like I I tell people that like if Tokyo Mirage Sessions had the production budget that Persona 5 had, it would have been a better game. Like it would be better than Persona 5. Like
you know what's funny? I bet you they actually probably did start with similar budgets, but because of that game having to get restarted about 2 to 3 different times, like that's the only real way is like obviously the length is it's like bigger stuff and a couple of the other aspects of like that's probably why it's shortened at the end of the day, and obviously like it's to the game's benefit. But yeah. Like I would not be surprised just because those games had just as long a development time as one another.
Yeah, and I like that like because like Tokyo Mirage Sessions I lost my train of thought. It if the budgets were equal, like I couldn't even imagine how great Tokyo Mirage Sessions would have been. Like because like I recognize that Persona 5 is a better game overall. But I think but I like Tokyo Mirage Sessions more.
I'm really curious if you can kind of like make a quick like kind of point. Why do you think Persona 5, like, so in your personal opinion, you think at the end of the day P5 is a better game, but you like TMS more? So what do you think makes P5 take the edge over TMS then?
I think the presentation is better, even though Tokyo Mirage Sessions is great. I think the presentation is better. I think the combat mainly just like I think the combat's style is more like not the mechanics, but like the style of like when you do the all-in attack and stuff like that. Like that's something that just like never gets old. Like and that's I like every time it happens, I'm just like let's go. Like I love it. With the battle music, like the background music. I'm forgetting Last Surprise playing in the background. Man, just like I'm never gonna get used to there being a new battle music in Royal instead of Last Surprise because that song is just so good. You know what I mean? And also the detail. Like I just feel like with the concept that Tokyo Mirage Session presents with like all these people being idols and trying to better themselves and master their craft, it limits the overall potential of a character arc, while Persona 5 with the calendar system and like the way you can develop your relationship with your characters with the support, it's just more fleshed out than the characters in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, 100%. That's a really interesting side though.
It's more of the outside battle perspective that I think that really puts Persona 5 over Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I still think the battle mechanics of Tokyo Mirage Sessions is better than Persona 5. Like
weird little this or that soundtrack wise, especially now that you've gone back and played
Persona 5. Persona 5 has a better soundtrack, but again, production value I think has a lot to do with that. They're able to get like they have lyrics in a lot of their songs and things like that I think adds to the charm of Persona 5. Again, like if you were to ask me like, oh, what would you rate Persona 5 and what would you rate Tokyo Mirage Sessions? I would rate Persona 5 like a 9.5, and I would rate Tokyo Mirage. I rated Tokyo Mirage Sessions a 9. Like they're very close, but I think that just Persona 5, especially with it being a longer game, more characters to interact with, things like that. There was just more potential overall when it came to the characters and the interaction and the story, while Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a much shorter lived experience. You meet all of the characters that you're going to interact with pretty early on in the game, or like the major characters that are in your party and things like that. While like Persona 5, you're like 2/3 of the way through the game, and that's when you meet Haru, and it's like been like 50 to 55 hours, depending on how fast you play. Like how long did it take you to beat Persona 5?
I'm glad you asked me that question, Cam. You're currently talking to #1 Persona Sham and podcast host. I've had that game since February of 2017, and I'm currently still trying to finish it because I had a big baby boo-boo breakup moment in my life, and I decided I was too cool for video games for about let's say 4 to 5 months. So big hiatus for that, but I have committed myself to finally finishing P5 before Royal. But I'm actually playing TMS and at the same time, which has been really interesting for comparisons.
What palace are you on?
Oh, I'm on the trying to think because I haven't touched it actually in a while. I just finished the 3rd palace.
Dude, you got a while to go.
Oh no, I know. But actually, I was going at a really, really good pace with it because I'm pretty much now caught up to where I was before I had stopped during my review process. Mm-hmm. And honestly, with a lot of it, I was going at a really, really good pace. I have a lot of time to dedicate into it. I honestly, without a doubt, feel like if it wasn't for the fact that I'm playing Tokyo Mirage Sessions, I'm playing Kingdom Hearts and a bunch of other little things right now, that I would be done with it. Because I to put this into context, I pretty much seriously started my replay January 1st, and I got that far within less than a week.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, now I'm looking at calendar and I see, that's not bad. Because you meet Haru, who is the last member of your party that joins you. If you don't count...
Goro.
Oh, well, I mean, spoilers, but Akechi. If you don't count Akechi. I'm saying his name right? It is Akechi.
Hey, man, I'm not going to call you out on it. You got it. That's his
name.
That's his name. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't worried about pronunciation. I was worried about the full-on name. Akechi, she joins you in the 5th palace, I want to say. And then there's 2 more after that. So, for example, what I was trying to point out is that most people that I know beat Persona 5 somewhere around 100 to 125 hours.
Oh, yeah, that's at this point, I think it is safe to say you are booking it to beat that game under triple digits.
And see, here's the thing. I played through that game casually, and I beat it in 75.
Interesting. What do you think made the difference? I guess what difficulty were you on?
I think what makes the difference, at least for me, in my opinion, was because I played through I played most of Persona 4 Golden, so I knew how Persona worked. And I think that a lot of people that were playing Persona 5, it was their first Persona. So they were trying to get used to, so I should prioritize this, and then I should prioritize that, and yada yada yada.
Getting basically caught up in the minutia. There is straight up a button dedicated in that game to just say, what do I do today? So yeah, if you're not really getting caught up in those things, that makes a whole lot of sense. Honestly, a good example is what I did in 30 hours of that game. I basically trimmed about 15 out on my second replay just because I was going even faster because I already knew what to expect and I wasn't even skipping the story.
Yeah, so for me, I beat it in 75 hours and I was confused. I was just why did it take people so long to beat this game? Because I was playing it it was my priority game. That's all I was playing for. Because I remember vividly, I was playing through Persona 5, and then Monster Hunter World came out. Then I took 2 weeks to play through that, 2 or 3 weeks, which is a great game, by the way, if you haven't played Monster Hunter World.
Hold on. My brain is a little broken right now. Explain to me this timetable of when you started playing Persona 5.
Oh, I can't tell you when. I don't know when. I didn't start it when it came out.
Okay, okay. Because in my head I was hold on, that should be up way further.
I just bought it when it was on sale for
Gotcha.
$20.
Okay.
And yeah. So I ended up getting it, and I started because everyone was talking about how good it was, and I was like, well, I definitely want to play it. I just, priority things, and then I was just like, okay, I need to play through. I knew that there weren't many big games coming out because it was like early springtime, and I think it was 2018. So when I played it, and so I played it for a minute where like when I was playing when I was playing through Persona, I was literally like sitting down and playing it all day. And then Monster Hunter World came out, and I played that for again like 2 to 4 weeks, not 100% sure. Then I went back, and when I went back was when I started the fourth palace. Um, and it took me a minute to get back into the swing of things. I felt like very fatigued. It just took me a minute for it to click back. The rotation, like the kind of like the cycle of what you do in Persona, and then I got through it, and yeah, and then I just played through the rest of the game, and I beat it at like 75 hours, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay. I expected it to be longer, based off like what people said, and I looked at like how long to beat, and it said like 120 something hours. I'm like, okay, well, this is weird, but I just assumed that it was because I I just knew what I was doing, exactly what I wanted to do, and how to process that. And now knowing that Royal has a whole nother semester added, gosh, I can't even imagine how long it's going to take some people to beat that game. You know what I mean?
Well, the interesting thing with that is they've actually, one of the big complaints, whether it be from Japan or in the Western release, was that Persona 5 has a lot of fluff, which, boy, on a second replay through the same semesters especially stand out as like, wow, there's a lot of downtime that they don't really do a lot with. So Royal's big thing is they're going to make a lot of changes in the story to feel like nothing is basically all killer, no filler. So there's still going to be those down moments, but they're going to have them make a lot more consequences where you're meeting new people. Like the story's going to feel like it's progressing even in those periods where you're just killing time on the calendar. So they've even said with the added semester, the game will take as long as it did to beat Persona 5 the first time. So
they're just adding in more like meaningful content during the downtimes.
Adding in more and actually cutting out a lot more of the like dead moments. So it's still they've still said it's going to estimate around 80 to 100 hours if you do the new semester. Which, by the way, another reminder for everyone out there, please look up what you need to unlock in Royal, because much like Rin's route in Catherine Full Body, it is possible to miss the third semester, and there is no backsies. That just is a ended game.
Really?
Yes.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I review it, then I got to make sure I know that. So
I'm trying to remember. Did you review Full Body?
I didn't. I wanted to, but I did not.
So I played that game in March of 2019 because I imported the Vita version. And I have basically baby's first knowledge of Japan. I can understand a lot of things for the most part, but a lot of the like bigger kanji words and stuff are in the big story decision moments. So the chance of me understanding what it would take to get Rin's route, because my whole point when I first played it was, I want to get Rin's route, I want to get Rin's route, I want to get Rin's route. Her whole route, which by the way, wow, what a tongue twister now that I've said that out loud. Rin's route. Her whole thing is based off decisions you have to make that'll shatter the glass of the decision picker.
Yep.
So if you don't know what you're doing, Rin's route just turns into that moment when Rin runs away from you towards the end of the game, and there's that phone call moment you have with her. That's the end of her story. So then you just continue on to the game and have the world's most lonely man Vincent ending ever. And that was my first playthrough of her, like what I thought was her route in Japanese, and I was like, what a terrible ending this was. And then when it came out in English, I was like, oh, okay, it makes way, because when you like look at the questions, it's very like black or white of, here's the good answer, here is the bad answer, I am wanting to date Rin, here is my socially challenging answer. Yeah.
Okay, God. so I assume you know the ending of Rin's true route, right?
Yes, I very controversially love everything about that game's true route, and I think the last level that you can only get in her route is the best in the game. The problem is, once you finish that level, what I've always used to describe it is, that game decides to turn a pretty optimistic and great ending with 2 unique characters, and just says, nah, JK, this is the Silent Hill 2 dog ending, and just make it a big joke, which I thought really took a lot of the wind out of my sails.
Yeah, I wrote an editorial specifically about Rin's true route ending, and God, like that was a big reason why like I didn't like Full Body, because I was just like, okay, so like spoilers for Catherine Full Body, because I want to talk about this for a second. Aliens, dude.
No, not even aliens. If it was just aliens, that would have been fine. Because, like, the whole point of people were originally thinking, okay, she's maybe like a mythical, like, angel or something.
Yeah.
I appreciated that even with her being an angel.
Because it actually fit the theme of the game.
Well, on top of that, too, like, they still committed, alien or not, she is a boy. Like, Rin at the end of the game...
No. Those things are fine. Like, that's not the part that, like, bothers me.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, they push it so far that, like, you think them being aliens or being angels should be the part that ruins it. But no, like, they were literally at the finish line of being really acceptable and me loving her ending, and then just blow it.
No, the part for me that just ruined it for me was the aliens bit.
So just the fact that they're aliens, so like basically when her
okay, because the thing is like, okay, so like, I forgot the specific, like because Atlas games, like, you know, if you're an SMT fan, Atlas fan, you know that like Atlas, all their stories, even Persona 5 is very like symbolic of like mythical culture, of like different cultures. And so, like, in Catherine, it's about, like, Sumerian culture, if I'm correct. And it's, like, all about, like, actually, like, hell and, like, things like that. And then it's just, like, but aliens are now involved. And it's just, like, that has nothing to do with any of the themes that you have introduced throughout this entire game.
So, basically, as soon as Rin's brothers... lift up, like, basically once they abduct you from the bar, then it was immediately sour grapes.
Yeah, like literally, no, like once the pink aliens flew out, I was so confused and partially offended that I was just like, what? Like, it's just like, okay, so Boss is the bad guy because, you know, Vincent isn't doing the job of a male to procreate and continue, like, and make life. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Aliens, though. And now Vincent and Ren are going to travel around different parts of the universe to play piano? Okay. It just didn't fit. It just felt so out of place from, like, literally everything else. All the Catherine routes. With a K, or all the Catherine with the C routes, like those at least fit the theme of the game and like what like I think that Atlas was trying to do. Everything with Rin, just like at least in the true route, I was just like, why? This doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't fit Catherine, the themes of Catherine at all.
It's really stressful as well. Like, not stressful. It's really frustrating in the sense of, I think one of the big points about that make Catherine's, like, when you finally realize why are the nightmares happening, like, why is Boss doing what he's doing, like, when you find out that Boss isn't actually in charge of everything at the end, like, you find out Ishtar, who aka Trish, is like, these gods are manipulating these events because they have a certain order that they need the world to work. When you add that extra layer, things start getting really uneven in terms of, hold on, why is there a boss for the boss of the boss? Like, now we're getting a little too, like, stupid in its hierarchy. But then when you make that final tippy top boss for lack of a better word, dollar store pink minion ripoff, it, like, makes it ring so much more hollow, where it's like, without these, like, it just, like, soils everything that came before it, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that was a big reason why I it's kind of like how I felt when I watched Toy Story 4 last year. I was just like, if I could like remove this information from my memory and just go with what I already knew, and just like it was just like, oh, Catherine with a K and a C, their stories, their paths, and that's it, then I would love Catherine Full Body. I would just be like, this is it. This is great. This is great. But outside of like, I still wish that it was more punishingly difficult like the original. But with Rin's True Route, I'm like, I see this game in a different light now and not in a good way. Like it's still my favorite puzzle game, but like it muddles its themes with with the whole alien situation, and like I don't know, but yeah, so
it's really funny when you think about it, like on paper. If you write down one of the biggest new additions to Full Body is a third love option who is actually a male. Like, on paper, that should lead to, like, oh god, there's so many things that could go wrong to it. But they honestly handle it, like, pretty well to the point of, like, I wish the ending of, like, Ren's True Route kind of got into the point of, like, because beforehand they were talking about it. They were like, hey, just because this is not your traditional love between a man and a woman, like, yes, we can't copulate or whatever, like, our love is still as meaningful as, like, as if it was with Catherine with a C or a K. But
yeah,
but then the fact of like, okay, instead of keeping that conversation going, she's also an alien though. It's like, oh
yeah.
man.
No, that stuff was great. Like Japan like poorly advertised like the stuff with Ren and like
I mean, they basically were advertising her as a big trap, which, like, for lack of a better word, like, that's, like, the director himself even, like, when he was commenting about, there's, like, a specific word phrase for it, but, like, there's a specific type of cross-dresser that, like, they had in mind when it was, how Ren, like, presents himself. Like, it wasn't like a, oh, will they, won't they, which is kind of funny, because, like, I feel like if Catherine was like a Western game, which it would never be in a million billion years unless it was like a really obscure indie game, like I think it would be a lot more safer to be like, okay, Ren is Ren. Find out if you want to find out. Because I don't know if you knew this. Following, like, how much did you follow the Japanese marketing compared to the Western marketing of Full Body?
not much. I wanted to because I try to save it for when I actually play it. And I just want to quickly say, if I accidentally used the wrong pronouns for Ren,
oh my god, dude, I know, yeah, because like it's one of those
apologize.
things of like,
I don't know if I said she, but I know it's him. I'm sorry for anyone listening.
You do not need to apologize. That game goes through 80% of its story using a different pronoun. Like one of the the best part about that is the fact that Ren in the game even says he doesn't care what pronouns he goes by. He's like, oh,
that's
whatever.
true. That's true. But that is true. But yeah.
But one last little thing I did want to bring up that's really interesting about the marketing and that you actually don't notice even though you have the art book. From the collector's edition, in Japan there is a one of the first pieces of art they ever had for Ren is the shot of her lifting up her skirt, and it's all blackened out with like Vincent underneath, and that was one of the biggest. I mean, Jesus, their TGS booth I think at like 2018. You had to walk underneath Ren's skirt. And, like, they made, like, a big cutout of it. So, like, that was one of the big themes of how they advertised Ren, of, like, okay, what is Ren? Is Ren a boy? Is Ren a girl? The Western one, they have never used that. Not on the website, not in any official art release material. That art they never once wanted to use, and I find it really interesting because I bet you the only reason they never used that art is because the giant overblown, stupid shitstorm that happened. Because remember when Full Body came out in Japan and everyone got their panties in a twist because someone online mistranslated or was misreading how the game was like displaying Ren's ending, and they got it so wrong, and everyone jumped on the like cancel Atlas bandwagon. Which, by the way, good for them for never actually commenting on it. I think the most we ever got was like voice actors commented on it of like, hey, we've seen the script. Please be cool. We can't tell you what it is, obviously. Although, looking back on that, it would have been really funny if they're like, guys, she's just an alien. Please don't get upset. That would have been even better of the immediate egg on their face, but I'm at least glad that didn't get spoiled. But that's one of those moments I always get really salty about, because I hated how people were throwing that game under the bus with zero understanding of that game's basic language. Most of the people who were mad about that game had no basic native understanding of Japanese, immediately got super pissed, and when the game came out and we found out that's not actually what happened, did you see a mass wave of apologies? No, we just acted like it never happened. But that was a big deal. When Catherine released and everyone thought it had this super toxic and terrible depiction of Ren and Erica, it was what are they doing? But no, just moved on. Not a big deal. Who cares? Why apologize?
Yeah, I mean, I think people know now that, in hindsight, that Alice did what they needed to do. It looked bad for them at first, but once the game came out and people realized oh, this isn't the case, then everything's Gucci now.
I'll say this: imagine that controversy didn't happen, and they reused the giant booth of walking under Ren's skirt to play the Catherine demo. Imagine that at a PAX, and how poorly that would be received.
I feel like it would be on brand even if they didn't know the
I don't know.
or the plot circumstance. So, but yeah, Tokyo Mirage Sessions though.
Let me tell you about all the sweet Catherine lore in Tokyo Mirage Sessions. On a little bit of a lighter note, I was curious what you thought of the new costumes, because we have 4 new costumes. One's from Fire Emblem Three Houses, one is from Etrian Odyssey, I think 5 or Nexus, and then we have the Demonica armor from Strange Journey and Joker's outfit from P5.
Yeah, I like the obviously the Joker one. Well, once I got that, I was I used that for the rest of the game. And then the one from, I believe it was Etrian Odyssey, because I'm not familiar with that franchise, but the one that Eleonora gets, I used that one as well. I really like that one. But the one for God, what's his name? Yoshinori? I forgot his name. It's a long name.
Are you talking about Toma?
No. Wait. Yeah. Wait, it was for Toma, right?
Yeah.
It was for Toma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was cool too. And then I thought that Yoshinori, is it Yoshinori?
If only we had the internet to know.
Yeah, who's the? Oh gosh, dang it. Sessions Yoshinori. No, that's not it. What's his name?
So are you talking about for one of the costumes, or which part about him are you talking about?
It's a costume for Yashiro.
Oh.
Fake fan here. Yoshiro, he has this really weird, looks like robot armor.
Yes, that is the Demonica armor from Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. That's basically, for lack of a better words, that is Doom Guy in SMT.
Okay, yeah, I really did not like that one. I was just nope, don't like this at all.
It's without any association of it. It's just here's armor. You've lost all facial features and movements. So the character base, honestly, any of the characters of the game could have had it. So it's just kind of that one's definitely in there for more of the very niche, kind of hardcore fans. Which is funny because the only reason the Demonica armor's in it is because the 3DS release of Strange Journey. But so if we're including all of the DLC costumes, even from the original one, out of the crossover ones, which one is your favorite? And please don't say Joker.
But it is Joker.
Oh, his hair looks so bad! I was trying to hold it in, but his hair looks so bad, dude. Tell me that hair doesn't look bad.
It looks fine.
That's fine.
It's not yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same, but It's fine. Like, it's better than like Eleanor's forest green hair, like one of the ugliest colors. Like, I don't know.
It's just weird because other DLC costumes they give people wigs, and I just don't know why they didn't give him like a better Jokery wig. It just feels like he had 80% of the cosplay done and forgot the wig at home. But I understand that is a very cool costume to have in there. Which, honest to God, I'm amazed they waited so close to launch to advertise because of how popular P5 is.
I think they wanted it to be a surprise.
It would, you know, that would make sense because honestly, that trailer released a day after the box art leak, so I wouldn't be surprised if the only reason that trailer happened is because it already leaked a week before.
Yeah, like when it leaked, I already knew about it, and I was just like, man, I kind of wish this didn't leak because I think people would have been really happy to see it as like a surprise.
Also, I guess we can't call it a leak. It is
also...
literally on the back of the box. That's on them.
Oh, it is on the back of the box?
It is literally on the back of the box.
Because I got a code, but I do want to buy a physical copy of that game regardless because I love that game, and I think the art is awesome. But because one of my friends messaged me and on Twitter, and he was just like, "Yo, is that Joker DLC real?" And I was just like, "Yeah, it's real."
Oh man, if it was DLC, that would have had a really bad connotation. I'm glad that the game is just complete and there's no extra DLC they added.
Oh yeah. It's just like it's a part of it's just a part of Encore.
Yeah.
But before we go, because I have to head out soon.
Yes.
I think the reason why like this game really struck a chord with me when I first played it is because shortly before I played this game, I played Fire Emblem Awakening, which was my first Fire Emblem game, and that game is a masterpiece. Fire Emblem Awakening, in my opinion, is a 10 out of 10 game. Like, if I had to review that game, I'd give it 10 out of 10. I think it is the best. It is the best first-party title on the 3DS. Like, that game is just phenomenal. And I think in that game just quickly made me fall in love with that series. Like, Fire Emblem is now one of my favorite video game franchises. And so like, and because the thing is, like, I always sort of had a connection to Fire Emblem because when it came to Smash, I always was attracted to Marth. I liked his design. I liked the way he played was my type of play style. I loved Marth. And then I fell in love with the actual franchise itself when I played Awakening. And Fire Emblem Awakening is in my top 10 of my favorite games. And I think Tokyo Mirage Sessions is too. I think Tokyo Mirage Session sits at literally number 10 on my top 10 favorite games. And when I played this game and you get to the end, major spoilers ahead, when they begin the opera and Itsuki turns into Marth in a sense, the role of Marth, and he just looks like Marth, and then there's that cutscene where they're just rising above to ready to fight Medeus or Medeus, I don't know how you pronounce the name properly, and they're just singing the Fire Emblem theme song. Dude, I was in tears. The first when I played that on the Wii U, and when I played it on Switch, it wasn't it still was very emotional. It didn't make me cry like it did, which is why I think that game is ranked so highly for me, because it's one of the very few games that I've played that has legitimately made me cry while playing. And so yeah, just that cutscene where they're just rising up and they're singing the Fire Emblem theme song, and man, that was where I truly knew that this was a special game. It's not what people wanted in a Shin Megami Tensei cross Fire Emblem game, but Atlus was able to make it in a way that was still respectful to that franchise in a really beautiful way. That I think only Atlus could do. So yeah, that's what really made me like just realize how like I was a huge fan of it like throughout the entirety, but once you get to that like final chapter where like the heavy Fire Emblem story aspects kick in and you realize like really what this game is where I was just like, man, this game is just truly something special, and it's a game that everyone should play. It's just a great game, and I'm glad that it was able to get a second life on the Switch. And unfortunately, based off how the game ends, there will probably never be a sequel. Maybe a spinoff. Who knows? With new characters, who knows? But I really love this game. I really love the characters and the battle system, and I hope that this like isn't the end for like Tokyo Mirage Sessions and the Sessions mechanic, because it's a really, really great turn-based mechanic, and I hope that we see it again somewhere else, whether it be a spin-off or a sequel or whatever. I just want Atlas to continue building off that system because it's really great.
Well, man, I am so happy I was able to get you on the episode, and I had someone I could gush about Encore with, and hopefully if someone is listening to this and have been on the edge and aren't make or break with her being 18 and not 17, hopefully if you guys are listening to this and you have a Switch, you can pick it up. I cannot recommend it enough as well. I'm gonna be nice on our time, and basically I'll have many other weeks to rant and rave about my thoughts on this game. I super love it. I agree with a lot of things Cam has to say. I myself should have a proper video review. I'm giving myself a soft deadline of have it at least done and up by end of the month, so January. But either way, the podcast is still happening weekly. We'll have tons of time to talk about it more and more. I do want to ask you one really quick question, though, because from all this time talking to you, I actually get more of the vibe. Would you say you're probably a bigger Fire Emblem fan than an Atlas fan?
I would say no. Okay. I would say I'm more of an Atlas fan because every Atlas game I've played, I've loved. And because Fire Emblem Awakening, is a masterpiece, and I think it's out of the games I have played, which is everything from Awakening forward, I think it's the best. I was really disappointed in Fates because I played because I think Fates came out like probably 6 to 12 months after I finished Awakening, and it was just a real letdown. And I like Shadows of Valentia, but it didn't have what Awakening had to make it really feel special. With like, I thought like the character, like the depth of characters, the story. Oh my god, the story in Awakening is just incredible.
Yeah, so it's like a lot more uneven compared to your experience with all the Atlas games.
It's more uneven. Like, and also I'm like, while I really like Fire Emblem, I'm not great at it. Like, I'm not great at the strategic, grid-based combat. I'm more attuned to just standard turn-based. But I like, because of how great Awakening was for me as like my first time, like I will always get the new Fire Emblem game. Like it has earned that right for me, that respect from me, that like I know that a game, because from what it sounds like, Three Houses is up there with Awakening in quality, because I haven't gotten far enough to really say that, but like I already know that I think Three Houses was number like 4 or 5 on my top 10 for 2019, and I can easily believe that if I finished the game in time, it would have been it could have been up to number 2. I don't know if it would have been my game of the year, because The Walking Dead, the final season, really important game in my opinion. But it seems like the quality was definitely there for Three Houses, and because I still hear stuff about that game now. Um, so I think Atlas just is more consistent in that sense. But Fire Emblem, and I think it's kind of unfair to compare because Atlas makes a bunch of different franchises while Fire Emblem is just Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Like if you told me like, oh, would you compare like Persona to Fire Emblem? It's kind of a toss up. Like Fire Emblem Awakening, I think is better than like Persona 5 and what I've played of Persona 4 Golden.
They're
But
just
like,
so outside of each other's spectrums in terms
but
of
yeah,
like genre. It's like I'm sure to
different games.
someone that's like a hot take, but like for me who's been very very much so not like in Fire Emblem at all from a series,
Mhm.
it's just like oh, okay, yeah, they're just like kind of different games.
Yeah,
So
I like if you haven't played, yeah, saying you haven't played Fire Emblem, you gotta play Fire Emblem Awakening. Like
I mean, if I had to pick up any, that is the one I'd be most guilted to play just because of how much positive things I've heard about it. And also, I interviewed Matthew Mercer shortly after that game had came out. He was
no
like,
way.
"Oh yeah, yeah. If you want to listen to a great interview, it's like still available. We had interviewed him. He came to like a local convention, and he's just the nicest guy. And I'm sure that only
Dude,
like,
that's awesome.
and this by the way was like before even all the like D&D stuff when he
Yeah,
was
because
pretty much not like super duper known.
yeah,
But there is a great video I'm gonna try and link to you later because I know you got to go in a minute. Of there is a scene and I don't know any of the context to it where um it's like one of the CG cutscenes where he picks up your character and like looks at you and like says something or whatever. And we had this great moment where he said, "Oh yeah, originally we were just shooting the shit and like ad-libbing lines." And he was like, "Oh, I could do it to you if you want right now." And we had someone go back and actually find the footage in the game and use the audio from that interview because I think the lips perfectly matched up to like this really like dynamic moment of Crom picking you up and he's like saying like something along the lines of your butthole I can see inside of it or whatever, and it was just so weird because he did it in Crom's very stoic serious voice.
yeah.
I'll have to say this because it was like it was creepily how well it fit for it. But yes, could not recommend Matthew Mercer. Is nice enough of a guy. But I've got to finish this, or else I think it's gonna count as like I kidnapped you. So
No, well, hold on, really quick. Speaking of which, have you seen the meme? So if you don't know this, I assume you do. First off, I want to say that's awesome because I'm also a critter. Like I love Critical Role. I love Dungeons and Dragons so much. So that's really cool that you got to meet him and interview him before like he really blew up in that sense. Because like I'm sure nowadays like that would be really hard to
dude,
do.
back then the only reason we had him on the show is because he was Kanji's new voice at the time. This is like 2013. He was Kanji's new voice at
Yeah,
the time, and
for the anime.
he had voiced a guy in Shin Megami Tensei 4. That was like his biggest stuff for us. Whereas like
Yeah,
now he's like mega big.
yeah, he's huge now. But yeah, because he also voices Ryoma in Fates. And there was like once Fire Emblem Warriors came out, there was this meme where it's just like, no, I'm more Matt Mercer than you are, like because it's the same voice actor. I thought it was really funny. But yeah, no, yeah, Matt Mercer is awesome. And that's really cool that you got to interview him. But yeah, Awakening is like super special game. Like it's one of those games that like once the credits roll, you just need to sit there in silence and just think about everything you've just experienced.
Gonna have a
And
lot of introspection and self-reflection after playing this game after so
yeah,
many years.
it's one of those games where you're just like it's just like wow, like you just want to just like sit there and just be like, wow, what a perfect experience, like what a great experience, like that you wouldn't want to be changed in any sense of the word, like it's just great, it's great. The only thing that like the only criticism like that I really hear from people about that game is that it's kind of broken in the sense of like when you have someone pair up with someone, they both defend and attack with you, and then so it's kind of it can get a little bit OP depending on how you implement those things, and they fixed that in Birthright, which wasn't any of my issues with Birthright. I just thought Birthright was relatively boring. But yeah, no, Fire Emblem Awakening is a masterpiece. It is, I think it's actually my second favorite JRPG because I don't think.
Cameron, if I let you talk about this game any longer, you're going to actually turn this into the Fire Emblem Network podcast.
Okay, no, I'll stop. No,
I will say you've re-inspired me though to definitely pick up the mantle one day. I will finally give that a shot because as of this recording, I've still never actually touched a single proper Fire Emblem game. Fire Emblem experience is Tokyo Mirage Sessions and Fire Emblem Warriors and nothing else.
But yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, like I think Awakening is actually my second favorite JRPG after Kingdom Hearts 2. So if that's
I need to just sit down with you later at a later date and go over these lists. These lists sound like they were written by a madman in a dartboard, but I'm all for it. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you online and your various writings?
Yeah, you can follow my writings at DualShockers.com. We have a great team of people that are passionate about video game journalism and expressing our opinions and just we love games. And you can follow me on the social medias at the Cinephile Guy. I want to change it to something else that's more neutral or something that's like more game oriented, but like all my ideas that I've thought of are just taken.
Why do you want to change it? What's wrong with your name? You gotta get a name.
Because people associate me more with gaming now. Instead of film, because I'm also a big film enthusiast. For those listening, and yeah, it's just I want it to be something more neutral, something more game oriented, maybe. But I'm really just trying to have it be more neutral. It's just something regarding my name or something like that. But I have like. Cameron Hawkins is like it's kind of hard to like find something that's like clever with that. So I'm just I'm figuring it out right now. But you can, as of right now, you can follow me at the Cinephile Guy. That's where I post all my unpopular opinions on video games and things like that.
All right, yeah, and all the links and everything will be in the show notes for if everyone who wants to stalk you and stuff like that.
Cool.
If you would like to stalk this show and whatever I do, you can find me on Twitter. I am at Torchwood4SP. You can follow the show on Twitter at SMT Network. You can find our Facebook group, which we are almost to 6,000 people, I think, now. For whatever reason, it is like skyrocketed in the last like 12 months.
6,000? Dang.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So we are at facebook.com/groups/SMTN. You can also find the podcast on YouTube by searching Shin Megami Tensei Network. Trust me, no one wants that SEO. That is just our podcast. So you can subscribe to that. That is my personal channel. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but that is all the important things. I could have kept you here for another at least 3.8 over 2.8 hours. I'm sure, but I cannot thank you enough. So we're going to end this. Instead of me letting you pick your final word, I'm going to give you a really hard question about Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Okay.
Your final statement.
Okay.
What is the best J-pop song in the whole track?
Oh, the best J-pop?
Yeah, so specifically anyone that has a MV. What is your favorite song? If you don't remember its specific name, you're more than fine to like work around what it was like.
Oh, well, I mean, out of the game, Reincarnation for sure.
Really? More than the ending one? I was thinking since Fire Emblem's main title song made you cry, you might have picked that one.
Oh, well, I mean, that's different. I feel like that shouldn't be counted.
Okay, so
but
we're just counting the original OG songs.
Yeah, the original like soundtrack songs of sorts. Yeah, because like you could be in a random car and you could play that shit and people would be like, "What's this? This is popping!" Like, you know what I mean?
I love that you picked that song because I feel like that song has like a triggering effect for like SMT fans, because especially with SMT fans, you either love Tokyo Mirage Sessions or you hate it because it's not SMT Cross Fire Emblem like it was announced. So now just for you to trigger people, we're gonna end this episode. I need your best impression of how Kyrie says Kawashitai, and that's where we're gonna end it.
Kawashitai?
Remember the like lead up to that song? It's like the guitar riff.
Kawashitai.
that like little bit, I remember like so many people would just be like, "Oh God!" As soon as I heard that.
It's awesome. It's right. It's like it goes straight into the drop.
Well, and remember when that game got re-revealed as Tokyo Mirage Sessions in that direct, that was Reincarnation started playing, and then you saw the J-pop with the Kawashitai.
And it slapped.
It does.
It was a bop.
Okay, I'm actually just doing this for us. There's one thing I wanted us to both try and do. So I'm going to give you like a weird like podcast challenge. This is not actually part of the show, but it's going to be a thing.
Okay.
I want both of us. We're both pretty well versed in the world of critiquing and talking video games. I want us both to see who can go the longest in this episode without saying the word Persona. Are you up for that challenge?
Yeah. I hate comparing this game to that franchise.
Because like it's like almost to the point of like how every freaking like media person who's covered this game, they have to like obviously Fire Emblem, you have to. That's like the overall general series thing for it. But the amount of people who have like seen, I specifically had this idea for the challenge when I was actually watching some of Game Explained's preview coverage. I think one of their videos was just straight up how TMS is Persona 5 on Switch, and I was like, okay, this is too far. Like, I've reached my breaking point.
Yeah, it's just not true. Like, it depends on like what, like for me, when I think about that franchise, I think about the high school classes, the getting your stats up during the daytime and having these connections with all these different characters, which none of that is in Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Like none of the things that make me consider Persona is in Tokyo Mirage Sessions. So
I am so glad that you agree with me, because that was one of those things. That was one of those things where it's like I would like to us to have that challenge for it, because I think that'll honestly make the overall like critique and discussion about the game way more fulfilling.
Yeah, I agree. I even said in my review, because I reviewed the game on DualShockers.com, and I said that it's a disservice calling Tokyo Mirage Sessions just like, oh, it's a light version of P4, or it's that franchise cross Fire Emblem. And it's just like, that's not true. It's like, and again, if it's anything, it's closer to SMT than it is, the other franchise. So I'm just trying not to say that franchise's name. And so, yeah, it's like, I get where people are coming from, but it's still just not true. And the game deserves more than that, because in my opinion, I think that there are some things in Tokyo Mirage Sessions that it does better than even P5, in my opinion.
Well, now we have to get back to the show, because now I'm just dying to really get in for it. But I appreciate that so much.
Yeah.